Hello, how are you? This is Hina from Team Vallath, and all the best for tomorrow. Well, I hope you know that you can change the language of your question paper at any time. I thought I'll tell you this. So, in case you want to change the language from English to Hindi for any question to understand it nicely, or vice versa, you can do it. Okay. And as you know, if your paper 2 is done fast, you can steal some time to go back and review paper 1, right? So, lot of things. And yes, please don't forget water bottle. I lay a lot of stress on hydration. So kindly, whenever you're feeling a little stressed, drink water. Just try to remember what you have learned and then just tick mark the answer. Okay. Let's start with cultural studies today. The topic of discussion for Net Cracker Q&A, 20 questions of the day. Question number 1, arrange the following in the chronological order of publication. The 4 works are A, the uses of literacy, B, culture and society, C, the long revolution, and D, the making of the English working class. So you have to arrange them chronologically in the order of their publication. You'll be giving options like this. So here are the options. Can you tell me? It is A, B, C, D. Come on, let's start it together. The Uses of Literacy. This is a book by Richard Hogarth, published in the year 1957. And the Uses of Literacy talks about the influence of mass media in UK. Second is B, Culture and Society, a very famous book by Raymond Williams, published in the year 1958, which talks about how culture developed in Great Britain from 18th to 20th century. C, The Long Revolution. It's again a book by Raymond Williams, published in the year 1961, and it talks about cultural revolution. You know, the Long Revolution talks about cultural revolution, just like we talk about industrial revolution, okay? And D, The Making of the English Working Class is a book by E.P. Thompson, published in the year 1963. And this talks about English social history. So can we repeat? The Uses of Literacy, 1957, Culture and Society, 1958, The Long Revolution, 1961, The Making of the English Working Class, 1963. A, B, C, D. We are done with question number 1. Question number 2. Who among the following is or are associated with the idea of subculture? Okay. Who's associated with subculture among the following? A, Dick Hebdige, B, Stuart Hall, C, Walter Benjamin, and D, Tony Jefferson. You know, 3 of these writers are associated with subculture. It's Dick, Stuart, and Tony. So A, B, and D, that is the correct answer. You know what is subculture? A culture within a culture, a subculture. Basically, those people or group of people who form their own culture, who have their own rights and beliefs, okay? They are usually counterculture, which means they do not believe in the prevalent conventions of the time. That is why subculture is also called as counterculture. An easiest example is a subculture of hippies. These people who wear loose clothes, listen to hallucinatory music, they embrace sex as a revolution, and they use drugs in order to explore the stream of consciousness, etc., etc. Just like hippies, we have punks, we have goths. There are so many subcultures in the UK. Now, Dick Hebdige is associated with subculture, as I told you, Stuart Hall and Tony Jefferson. So there's a book by Dick Hebdige. The name is Subculture, The Meaning of Style, published in the year 1979. Then Walter Benjamin, okay, he's not associated, as I told you. Now, Stuart Hall and Tony Jefferson, together, they have edited a book which is called as Resistance Through Rituals. Resistance Through Rituals is a book edited by Tony Jefferson and Stuart Hall. So Dick, Stuart, Tony associated with subculture, culture within a culture, also called as counterculture. Easy, easy. Question number 3. What is the subtitle of Paul Gilroy's Black Atlantic? So this book by Paul Gilroy, Black Atlantic, what is its subtitle? A, Modernity and Double Consciousness. B, The Meaning of Style. C, On Images and Things. Or D, A Social Critique of the Judgment of Taste. Tell me. Black Atlantic, Modernity and Double Consciousness, published in the year 1993. Paul, you know, is a cultural studies scholar from England, and this Black Atlantic talks about History. It's a history book of Black Atlantic culture. It talks about Black diasporic music. It also has a term which Paul Gilroy has used specially in Black Atlantic, which is called as Black Europeanness. So did you understand? Black Atlantic, Modernity and Double Consciousness, a book by Paul Gilroy published in the year 1993, talks about Black Atlantic culture, Black diasporic music, and Black Europeanness. It's a history book. Easy, easy. Question number 4. Who coined the term biopolitics? A. Rudolf Gellin, B. Michel Foucault, C. Umberto Eco, or D. Manfred E. Kleins? Biopolitics. What is biopolitics? Okay, first, Rudolf Gellin. He's the one who coined biopolitics for the first time in the year 1905 in his book, The Great Powers. And biopolitics, as the name suggests, talks about regulation of life, that is, regulation of the world species, regulation of humans with the help of politics or law. Biopolitics. Politics helps in regulating biology, people, species, right? Now, after Rudolf, Michel Foucault actually developed this idea of biopolitics. Quote by Michel Foucault, biopolitics is to ensure, sustain, and multiply life, to put this life in order. Okay, so term by Rudolf Gellin, biopolitics, further developed by Michel Foucault. Easy, easy. Question number 5. Who translated Derrida's De la Grammatologie of Grammatology from French into English? So Jacques Derrida wrote this awesome work of grammatology in French. Of course, he's a Frenchman. Who translated it into English? Can you tell me? A. Hayden White, B. Gayatri Spivak, C. Edward Said, or D. Judith Butler? It's an important question. It is Gayatri Spivak, an Indian author who lives in America, right? Well, Of Grammatology, or De la Grammatologie, was published in French in the year 1967. But it was published in English after 9 years, in the year 1976. And it was translated by Gayatri Spivak. And Of Grammatology is a book which talks of semiotics. Okay, it's a semiotic book, Of Grammatology by Jacques Derrida, published in French in 1967, in English 1976, translated by Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak. 6th question. Who edited New Cultural Studies, Adventures in Theory? New Cultural Studies, Adventures in Theory is edited by A. Gary Hall, B. Pramod K. Nair, C. Sadie Plant, or D. Stuart Hall? Tell me. It is option A, Gary Hall. And what does New Cultural Studies talk about? It talks about this post-Birmingham school generation. It talks about the relationship of cultural studies with media, German media theory, anti-capitalism, etc. New Cultural Studies book also talks about philosophies of important philosophers like Agamben, Deleuze, Zizek, etc. And this New Cultural Studies, Adventures in Theory, was edited by Gary Hall. Easy, easy. Gary Hall is a cultural theorist from Britain, and he is 61 years old. This takes us to question number 7. Who wrote Culture and Society, one of the pioneering texts in cultural studies? So Culture and Society is written by A. Stuart Hall, B. Raymond Williams, D. Richard Hogarth, or D. Claudie Levi-Strauss? It's an important one, and it's a very easy one. Raymond Williams, of course. Raymond Williams wrote Culture and Society, okay? And this work actually is so important because, you know, as I told you, it talks about the notion of culture, how culture developed in Great Britain from 18th century to 20th century. Culture and Society by Raymond Williams. Yes, Raymond Williams is a writer from Wales. He lived from 1921 to 1988. And this book, Culture and Society, was published in the year 1958. Easy, easy. Question number 8. Who of the following was not a founding figure of New Left Review? What is New Left Review? It is a bi-monthly British journal, okay? Basically, it's a journal from Britain, bi-monthly, which means once in 2 months it is published. It was originally established in 1960, and let me tell you, it is still continuing. New Left Review, who is not associated with New Left Review Journal. A. Stuart Hall, B. E.P. Thompson, C. Perry Anderson, or D. Pierre Macquarie. Understand now, Hall, Thompson, Anderson, they all are English. It has to be option D, Pierre Macquarie. Stuart Hall was the first editor-in-chief of Left Review, followed by Perry Anderson. He was the second editor-in-chief of New Left Review. And E.P. Thompson was the founding figure of New Left Review. New Left Review Journal was actually an amalgamation of two previous journals. So two previous journals combined to form New Left Review. Easy peasy theory like Kalyani, Vallath, ma'am. Question number 9. What is Raymond Williams' term for culture as a body of intellectual and imaginative work by which human thought and experience are recorded? A. Registered culture. B. None of these. C. Documentary culture. Or D. Archival culture. See, understand, what has Raymond Williams said about an imaginative work by which human experience is recorded? Make the question simple. If the question speaks too many words, make it simple. An imaginative work by which human experience is recorded. Where do you record human experience? Documentary. Yes? So documentary culture. That is the answer by Raymond Williams. This takes us to question number 10. Who among the following is not associated with visual culture? Not associated with visual culture. A. Nicholas Mirzoff, B. John Berger, C. William Evans Jr., or D. Catherine Hales. What is visual culture? Well, any culture, or basically study of anything which we see and study. For example, a photograph, a dress, a painting. So anything which we see in our everyday life, the study of that becomes visual culture. Who is associated with it? Can you tell me? Nicholas Mirzoff is connected. John Berger is connected. William Evans Jr. is connected. Catherine Hales is not connected with visual culture. Now, let me tell you fast, how is Nicholas Mirzoff connected? Nicholas Mirzoff wrote a book called as An Introduction to Visual Culture, published in 1999. So Nicholas Mirzoff wrote An Introduction to Visual Culture, published 1999. John Berger wrote Ways of Seeing, published in 1972. William Evans Jr. wrote Prints and Visual Communication, published 1969. So only Catherine Hales is not connected to visual culture. Easy. Question number 11. In the Culture Society, Art, Fashion, and Popular Music is a 1999 book by A. Stuart Hall, B. Paul Gilroy, C. Angela McRobbie, or D. Chris Barker. In the Culture Society, Art, Fashion, and Popular Music is a book by option C, Angela McRobbie. Connect Robbie with art, fashion, and popular music. I want to rob art, fashion, and popular music. This book was published in 1999. And who is Angela McRobbie? A British cultural theorist. She is 72 years old right now. Question number 12. What is the subtitle of There Ain't No Black in the Union Jack by Paul Gilroy? Can you tell me? Subtitle of this book. A. Studies in Traditional Folk Culture. B. The Cultural Politics of Race and Nation. C. Essays on Cultural Studies in America. Or D. Feminism and Cultural Studies. Come on, do you know it? It is option B, The Cultural Politics of Race and Nation. What does this book talk about? It talks about racial politics in the UK. So connect it. Racial, black, race. So how will we do it now? There ain't no black in the Union Jack. The Cultural Politics of Race and Nation talks about racial politics in the UK by Paul Gilroy, published in the year 1987. Easy. Question number 13. इतना easy है नहीं, मैं तो यहाँ बैठे बैठे बोल देती हूँ easy. Just take it, just listen to it in fast speed. First listen to my video in slow speed. Second time, listen to it in fast speed. It will enter your brain. Yes? Easy. Question number 13. In which year was In Other Worlds, Essays in Cultural Politics by Gayatri Spivak published? A, 1988, B, 1987, C, 1999, or D, 1966? It is option B, 1987. Basically, these are essays by Gayatri Spivak which talk about women and culture and language. So essay about women, culture, and language are spoken by Gayatri Spivak in her work called as In Other Worlds, Essays in Cultural Politics. So I can also say that this book talks about feminist, deconstructionist epistemology, published in the year 1987. This takes us to question number 14. Which of the following is not a work by Michel Foucault? Come on, let's learn his works together. Prison Notebooks is by Michel Foucault. Discipline is not by Michel Foucault. I'm sorry. Prison Notebooks is not by him. Discipline and Punish is by Michel Foucault. The History of Sexuality is by Michel Foucault. Madness in Civilization is by Michel Foucault. So Prison Notebooks is by an Italian writer, Antonio Gramsci. He wrote Prison Notebooks when he was actually in prison, okay? Antonio was in prison from 1929 to 1935, during which time he wrote Prison Notebooks. So Prison Notebooks is not by him, but Discipline and Punish, The History of Sexuality, and Madness and Civilization is by Michel Foucault. So did you get it? The book not by Michel Foucault is Prison Notebooks. This takes us to question number 15. A vocabulary of culture and society is the subtitle of A, Communications by Raymond Williams, B, Keywords by Raymond Williams, C, The Uses of Literacy by Richard Hogarth, or D, Be Creative by Angela McRobbie. What is it? A vocabulary of culture and society. Vocabulary connected with keywords. So keywords, a vocabulary of culture and society, is by Raymond Williams, published in the year 1976. In this work, Raymond has examined more than 100 words in context with culture. For example, he has examined art, nature, society, management, etc. And he has examined these works not etymologically. He has examined these words culturally. In which of his book? Keywords, a vocabulary of culture and society by Raymond Williams. Okay. Question number 16. Fear of Small Numbers is a 2000 book by A, Paul Willis, B, Arjun Appadurai, C, E.P. Thompson, or D, F.R. Levy. Fear of Small Numbers. It is by option B, Arjun Appadurai, an Indian-American theorist of globalization. He's 72 years old. And this fear of small numbers talks about the darker sides of globalization. It talks about genocide, suicide bombings, global violence, etc. Connect fear of small numbers with all these negative things, darker sides of globalization. Fear of Small Numbers, a 2006 book by Arjun Appadurai. Easy? Easy. Question number 17. Faultlines, Cultural Materialism and the Politics of Dissident Reading is a 1992 book by A, Edward Said, B, Stuart Hall, D, Alan Sinfield, or D, Ben Agar. Faultlines. Connected with sin, fault and sin, Alan Sinfield. Please make some codes in your brain. Remember it by connecting it with your everyday life. Like I connect fault with sin. So Faultlines, Alan Sinfield. Okay. Now this book talks about what? See, Alan Sinfield, basically, he's an English theorist in the field of Shakespeare and sexuality, as well as queer theory. And this is what Faultlines, Cultural Materialism and the Politics of Dissident Reading talks about. Okay, easy. This is actually, I'll tell you, it talks about how sexuality, hierarchy, and gender, all of this has forced itself into literary text. What all has forced itself into literary text? Hierarchy, sexuality, genders, etc. So Faultlines by Alan Sinfield. Sinfield. Question number 18. Who developed Panopticism, a social theory named after the Panopticon? A. Mikhail Foucault, B. William Gibson, C. Homi K. Bhabha, or D. Donna Haraway? Panopticism after Panopticon. What is Panopticon? This was a concept developed by Jeremy Bentham. Panopticon means an external surveillance system. Do you remember we see these movies of olden times, of the war times, when there is a prison, okay? Prison is in a circular wall here. In between, there's a tower. On that tower, a man stands with a very, very big flashlight. And he's literally rotating the flashlight here and there. And this light flashes, into the cells of the prisoners. And the prisoners are scared that they are being watched. The prisoners cannot see who's watching over them. They just know that they are being watched. This is the theory of Panopticon, which was given by Jeremy Bentham. On the basis of Panopticon, Mikhail Foucault developed Panopticism. What is Panopticism? Panopticon is external surveillance, but Panopticism is internal surveillance. When the surveillance becomes so heavy, the gaze of the watcher is so internalized, it is so much internalized that the person or the prisoner who's being watched becomes his own guard. I'm so conscious that somebody is watching me. That's Panopticism, okay? So Panopticism is that systematic control of human beings through subtle and unseen forces. You can consider CCTV cameras also a part of this, yes? Okay, good, na? Very nice. This was actually developed by Mikhail Foucault, this Panopticism idea, in his book called as Discipline and Punish, published in the year 1975. This takes us to question number 19. Who is the writer of the book Imagined Communities? A. Edward Said, B. Benedict Anderson, or C. Andrew Ross? Imagined Communities is written by option B, Benedict Anderson, an Anglo-Irish political scientist. Imagined Communities was published in the year 1983, and it talks about the origin and spread of nationalism beyond community, beyond boundary, beyond geography. That is what Imagined Community by Benedict Anderson, published in the year 1983, is all about. And this takes us to question number 20, the last question of the day. Who wrote Unclaimed Experience, Trauma, Narrative and History, one of the pioneering texts in trauma studies? A. Kalital, B. Kathy Carruth, C. Chris Schilling, or D. William Ruckert? Unclaimed Experience, Trauma, Narrative and History is a work by option B, Kathy Carruth. Well, she is a professor of psychoanalysis, okay, or comparative literature, right? She is born in the year 1955. And in this work, Unclaimed Experience, Trauma, Narrative and History, she talks about Freud's theory of trauma, among other important things. And we are done with cultural studies. I hope you liked it. Do watch it. Tomorrow is your exam. All the best. You will do awesome. Take care of paper 2 and paper 1. Last day to bolne ka kya fayda hai? Of course, you have taken care of everything, but still we'll never say that I know everything. Yeah? You know a lot. You know enough to clear the paper. All the very best to you. Bye-bye. This is Hina from Team Vallath. Take very good care of yourself.